In the silence of the mountains, where war waits like an unspoken truth, a man prepares for the inevitable. Ernest Hemingway's For Whom the Bell Tolls is a novel of war, duty, and sacrifice. It follows Robert Jordan, an American fighting in the Spanish Civil War, tasked with a mission that may cost him his life. In this episode of 5-Minute Literary Gems, we step into Hemingway's world through 5 moments of war, of love, of fate, and the final certainty of what must come. These are not just excerpts, they are the echoes of a man's last days.
No man is an island, entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a clod be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less. Any man's death diminishes me, because I am involved in mankind, and therefore, never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. The words echoed in his mind as he lay in the cold, the scent of pine thick in the air. How many bells had rung for the dead he had seen? How many would ring when it was his time? The thought did not frighten him. Death was never an end in itself. It rippled outward, touching all who remained. He had long accepted that his life was not his own. It was given to the cause, to the fight, to the great unbroken current of men who had come before him and those who would follow. The bell would toll, not just for him, but for all of them. For all of them, it always had.
The bell tolls not just for one, but for all. That's the weight Robert Jordan carries, the knowledge that in war, no life stands alone. And yet, war doesn't offer certainty, only the slow, steady march forward. There is no grand moment of decision, no hero's clarity, only the duty ahead. And in the quiet of the mountains, Jordan comes to understand something about courage that he had never faced before.
There was no one moment of decision. There was no certainty, no great cause that made the dying easier. There was only the work to be done, the thing ahead, the duty that carried him forward step by step. He had never thought of it as bravery, only as necessity. But now, in the cold quiet of the mountains, he understood something he had not before, that courage was not in the act itself, but in carrying the weight of knowing what was coming and still going forward. He looked at his hands, steady on his rifle. He had seen men break when the moment came, seen their hands shake, seen them whisper prayers to gods they had not spoken to in years. He had always believed he would not be one of them. And now, he knew. The fear was there, but it did not own him. He had done what was asked of him, and soon there would be nothing more to do.
But duty doesn't exist in isolation. The war moves through a land that has seen many battles before this one, and will see many after. And yet, for all its violence, the land itself remains indifferent. Spain, its mountains, its valleys, its vast and empty stretches of earth, holds a kind of beauty that makes men forget, even if only for a moment. But Hemingway reminds us, beauty does not mean mercy.
The land was beautiful. The high pines stood dark against the sky, the earth rolling and endless beneath them, the air clean and sharp with the scent of morning. He had always thought it strange how a place could hold such beauty and such violence at once. The war had changed nothing of the land itself. It would go on as it always had, long after the last shot was fired, long after every man who had fought on it was buried beneath it. He had seen bodies lying in the dirt, their blood dark against the dust. He had seen the sun set over a field still thick with the smoke of battle, the light catching in the red haze, making it look almost beautiful. The mountains did not care who had died upon them. The trees did not bow for the fallen. He looked out across the valley and knew that when he was gone, This place would remain unchanged, untouched, and in some way, that was a comfort.
And then there is Maria. War takes and war destroys, but somehow in its wake it also leaves moments like this. Love, brief and fragile, existing not in defiance of war but within it. For Robert Jordan, Maria is not an escape. She's a possibility, a glimpse of something beyond duty and destruction, a life that might have been if only time allowed.
She lay beside him in the dark, her body curled into his, the warmth of her pressing against his side. Outside the cave, the wind moved through the pines, whispering against the stone. The war felt distant here, beyond the trees, beyond the mountains. He rested his hand on her back, feeling her slow, steady breathing. He could not hold time, but in this moment, he held her. He closed his eyes and imagined another life. Mornings with steaming coffee, quiet evenings watching the light fade over tiled rooftops. But there was no future beyond this night, only the war. He pressed his lips against her hair, breathing her in. That would have to be enough.
But time does not allow, and Robert Jordan has always known that. The morning is coming, and so is the moment he has spent this entire war moving toward. Hemingway does not dwell on sentimentality. He gives us a man who knows the fight is all he has left to give, and when the time comes, he meets it as he always knew he would.
He lay on the earth, his rifle across his chest, the pain in his body distant now, like something that belonged to another man. The horses were coming. He could hear their hooves in the dirt, feel the rhythm of them through the ground. He did not think of escape. He did not think of running. There was nowhere to go but here. The sky was lightening at the edges, the first traces of dawn breaking beyond the hills. He thought of Maria. He thought of the night before. He thought of the sound of her voice, the feel of her hands, the way she had held onto him like she could keep him there if she only held tight enough. But he had always known he would not stay. He had always known the fight was all he had ever had to give. He steadied himself, drew in a breath, let it out slow. The wind moved through the trees, carrying the scent of pine, of dust, of something final. He had never believed in prayer, but in this moment, he made one, not for himself, but for the ones left behind. He closed his eyes for a brief second, then opened them again, his fingers tightening on the wood of the rifle. The moment had come, and he was ready.
The wind moves through the trees, the dawn breaks over the hills. Somewhere in the distance, a bell is ringing. In war, some men return, some do not, and some know, long before the moment comes, that they will not. For Robert Jordan, the choice was never in whether he would stay or go. It was only ever in how he would meet the end. A man does not own his fate. He only owns the way he stands when it comes for him. This has been 5-Minute Literary Gems, where we bring literature's most powerful moments to life. Hemingway's words linger long after the final page, and if these passages resonated with you, there's an entire world of storytelling waiting to be explored. What book should we feature next? Let us know in the comments. We're always searching for the next unforgettable passage to share. And if you want more literary moments like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, keep turning the pages.